the salespeople are like piranhas. Okay, if they have somebody that wants to buy something and they're 1 or 2 cars short of a goal for the year or for that month, they will go in and bite the sales manager's head off in order to get that deal done for their customer, because they want to hit their bonus that's going to pay them an extra $5,000 for the year or whatever it is.
All right, Ray, we're seeing that inventory is creeping up across the car market, and we're leading into the end of the year, which is the worst possible time to be an inventory manager, both on new car side like you were and used car dealer like myself. And I can tell you it's very difficult for us because we're going through a situation where we can buy cars cheaper now. We're heading into a tax time very soon. We're trying to load up. But what happens is, okay, we put out a lot of money at the time when we are the slowest that we will be all year round. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But I want to talk about the new car side of things. And you are a franchise manager, and you were able to see inventory management from the ground level, seeing these manufacturers pump dealers with vehicles. What did that look like at the end of the year for you?
Well, at the end of the year on the new car side of things was the busiest time of the year. It's the first 15 days of December were usually pretty good. And then from like the 16th to the 24th, kind of slowed down a little bit. And then from the 26th through the 31st was just crazy. And I used to, one of the things that I used to remind my salespeople of, and this goes back to the late 70s when I was at a Nissan dealership. And I used to talk about, I called it Cobb syndrome, Christmas on the brain syndrome. That this is the time of year where everybody has Christmas on the brain, including your salespeople. Okay, and my salespeople would be there, and they'd be thinking, okay, what do I want to get little Jimmy for Christmas? What do I want to get Jane? What do I want to get my wife? And meanwhile, a customer could be walking in, and the salespeople are still, thinking about what they're going to buy their loved ones. And I used to try to remind them, if somebody is walking into the dealership in the beginning of December, it's because they want to buy a car. Okay? And the only reason you're not going to sell them a car is because you are suffering from Christmas on the brain syndrome, and all you're thinking about is what you're going to buy instead of what you're going to help our customer buy. So this time of year to me was always trying to keep the sales staff focused on the job at hand. And the job at hand was taking the customer that walked through the door and figuring out how to sell them a car. And that car could be their Christmas present to somebody, whatever it was. But that was my job, was to keep the salespeople focused so that they could hit their ultimate goal of selling a car. So the whole thing every year was Cobb syndrome, Christmas on the brain syndrome. And it was just, once you got the salespeople to buy in, December could be a great month. And it, like when I worked for the Penske organization, I had to be out of, we're moving into 2025. So I would have to be out of all my new 2024s no later than the last day of December. So from an inventory management standpoint, I would be putting spiffs on my current model year cars that I need to get rid of. I just try and keep everybody's focus on the customers that come in and their desire to actually leave with one of our vehicles.
So this, from what I'm hearing for you, this is very interesting to me, because I'm not in the new car space. I'm in the used car space, and it's almost the inverse. And I was always under the impression that right at the end of the year, right around Christmas, that new car dealers would be slow, just like used car dealers are.
No.
But it's not the case then. So why is it then that's the best time of year to buy a brand new car? Is it that all these dealerships know that there are people out there and they're just trying to be the most competitive that they can because they know people are there to spend money, so they're going to be the most negotiable at that time? Why is it that you always say that you can get the best price on a new car at the very end of the year?
The biggest incentives that the manufacturers offer are the end of the year in December. Why is that? Because they have annual goals, calendar year goals that they want to hit. Dealerships have calendar year goals that they want to hit for both the number of new cars sold and the number of used cars sold. Okay. Salespeople have sales goals that they were assigned at the beginning of the year that they want to hit, that there could be bonuses, big bonuses riding on those things. So everybody is motivated to hit whatever goal has been put in front of them. The manufacturer spends more than they've ever spent. The dealer becomes more competitive than they've ever been because they want to hit that damn goal. The salespeople are like piranhas. Okay. If they have somebody that wants to buy something and they're 1 or 2 cars short of a goal for the year or for that month, they will go in and bite the sales manager's head off in order to get that deal done for their customer because they want to hit their bonus that's going to pay them an extra $5,000 for the year or whatever it is. So, and the easiest, just between the three of us, you, me, and Kristen, the easiest person to close on a car sale is the sales manager. Okay. And because the salesperson knows the sales manager wants to get a car deal. The salesperson wants to get a car deal. The customer wants to get a deal. It's a lot easier to go beat up your sales manager to get your sales manager to say yes than it is to keep going back out to your customer and beating them up. There isn't a sales manager in America who has not said to a salesperson, damn, I wish you'd bring the same energy to negotiating with your customer as you do when you come in here to negotiate with me. Think of how many more cars you'd sell if you'd actually talk to them like you're talking to me. Okay. But everybody is motivated to make it happen at the end of the year. And the week between Christmas and New Year's was typically the biggest week of the year for me as a new car dealer. On the new car side of things, it was usually huge. Where we'd, I was at some medium-sized dealerships, but if you're looking over that 6-day period of time, there could be 60 to 70 new car deals that get done over that 6-day period of time. You're talking doing 10, 12 new cars a day. Okay. That ain't normal in a medium-sized dealership. So everybody's just pushing. And sometimes when you're pushing, you just make some really great deals for customers and not so great deals for the dealership, but it's just a number at that point.
All right. Well, a lot of you might not realize this, but this is a brand new channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, and let us know what you want us to talk about. So it seems like it's 100% better to buy a car on December 31st than it is on January 1st.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially in a dealership that's publicly traded, because you can't roll a sale from January 1st back into December. Now a lot of mom and pop stores, that they might carry a month open. They might carry a month open till the 4th or 5th of the next month. But in a publicly traded store, you can't. So yeah, the 30th, the 31st, were two of the best days ever to buy cars. I remember calling my general manager on New Year's Eve at 10 o'clock to let him know that I just closed the last deal. We should be getting out of there soon. We ended up, it's like I needed a life. Okay. I needed something more than figuring out tying my worth to the number of cars that we sold. Um, I needed to understand that there was more to life than just selling cars, but I didn't quite figure that out till I got much older.
So I know that there were, I see a lot of incentives from manufacturers when these dealers hit monthly goals.
Yes,
Were there also a lot of yearly goals that manufacturers would pay out certain amounts if dealerships hit them?
they're typically monthly goals, quarterly goals, and quarterly goals end up being ultimately yearly goals. So yeah, I mean, there's certain things you're trying to hit. Part of it could be customer satisfaction metrics that you need to hit in order to trigger another bonus from the manufacturer. It just there's so many different things in play that dealerships are concerned with at the end of the year, but it's the type of stuff that usually spells big savings for a customer. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get to used car side of things. And what
Yes.
happens for us this time of year is we're trying to buy everything that we can get our hands on. And what I've even done, so Alex is my mechanic and he goes to a lot of these auctions and buys cars. And typically throughout the year, if it's not a load up time, we'll have kind of a rule where we say, okay, you don't want to pay more than like $25 to $3,000 on a car unless it's something that's very, very highly desirable. You can pay $3,500 for it. We can sell it for $5,000 no matter what.
Mhm.
But typically his range is $2,500 to $3,000. But right now, I take that rule doesn't exist. He buys anything up to that $3,500 range that he thinks is a good car that we can sell. And my dealership, we sell cars that are $5,000 and under.
Mhm.
So that's why he has that kind of range, because if he buys something at auction for $3,500, we know we have a little wiggle room to still be able to put some money into it and then sell it to our consumer for $5,000. We like to make about $1,000 a car is where we try to be at. So right now I'm having him buy everything he sees. We're trying to load up at tax time, but the for tax time. But the problem
Mhm.
is right now for a used car dealer like myself, our slowest time of the year is the time where Ray was the busiest.
Yes.
So into November, throughout December, and beginning of January are the slowest times that we'll experience all year round. And it's because of this Christmas brain. It's because people are spending their money on Christmas and the holidays and getting things ready, and they don't have room left over for used cars. So this is why used car dealers are the slowest that they'll be, and this is why I like to load up during this time, is because other used car dealers, they just stop going to auction. So that's less mouths to feed at these auctions for the supply that we have coming in to these car auctions, and it's when the prices at these auctions are going to be the least that they'll be all year round. So this is what I like to do. I like to prepare for the tax time that's coming,
Mhm.
where all these other dealers, what they do is they wait till the tax checks hit and then they go buy cars, and that's when we basically take a vacation from auctions. So when the money is starting to roll in, I want to be fully loaded, so I don't have to be reactionary and I don't have to go pay these crazy prices, because every year it hits these dealers in the face and they're like, well, what happened? All this money's coming and I sell all my cars, so I got to go replace them all. And they'll pay too much, and then the money dries up just like that. And then they're stuck with all this overpriced inventory. And I don't do that. So
Mhm.
this is why it's an interesting dynamic as far as what we're going through right now, because I'm putting out all of this money, as much money as I can put out right now.
Yes.
But we're bringing in the lowest amount of money that will bring in all year round. So in years past, it has been this is the highest stress level time of the year for us. It's better now. We're we're doing a little bit better than we have been. But it's been a very very stressful time when I'm trying to spend more money than I'm used to, and when we're not selling cars, and we just got to basically rely on the government. As much as I hate to say that, but we would every year we have to rely on the government to come through for us, get these people their checks, and then we will be rewarded. And but I can tell you at the end of every one of these rainbows that we were walking up, there was a pot of gold every year in the form of tax time for us.
Now, you typically pay cash for your inventory, correct?
Typically, I only pay cash for my inventory. Yes.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. You only pay cash for your inventory.
Yep.
What happens to the used car dealers out there that this is this, like you say, the slowest time of the year for them, and they don't have necessarily the cash on hand to be able to load up for tax time? Doesn't it make it better for you because you're not running into them at the auctions, so they're not bidding the cars up as much. So, so for you, the greatest return on your money should be happening from what you purchase today to then you'll get that big return when you sell it in February, March, and April.
And this is exactly why we load up at this time. Not only because we know that it's coming, but because there are dealers out there that even if they knew tax time was coming, a lot of these dealers do know. And most dealers do not pay cash like I do for their cars.
Mm-hmm.
They are on floor plan, like Ray was saying. So what has happened? Well, when they're slower, then they have less available credit,
Yes.
or they just don't have the space to put more cars in. So they just stop buying cars. And when this happens, stuff's the cheapest that it's going to be right now, and that's why I like to buy at this time and not when the money actually comes in.
So it's hugely different for you as a used car dealer who specializes in vehicles of $5,000 and less than it was for me as a new car guy, where we were just inundated with customers and making deals left and right, and you're just wondering where all the customers are, and you know you're not going to see any.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a question for you. So, did your trade in amounts, how much you paid for trade ins, did that change during December when sales were higher?
Um, Not really. I mean, but I think I've told you this. At least when I appraised cars, I used to always have three numbers in mind when I'd look at a trade. What I'd like to steal it for, what I thought it was really worth, and then how much over that I was willing to push myself in order to make a deal. Um, so I think today, because of all the computerization and the advent of things like V Auto, um, I think more dealers today are just more straight up with the values of vehicles. Um, I've worked with used car managers. When you'd ask them to appraise a car, they'd go, "Well, what is your customer hoping to get for it?" And I used to finally look at them and I go, "It doesn't matter what the customer's looking to get for it. It's got a value. Just tell me what the damn value is." Okay. What is it worth? That's all I want to know. It's got nothing to do with what the customer thinks it's worth. It's got everything to do with what is it worth. And I think today, with the advent of vAuto and other online tools, that dealerships just get to the really what it's worth phase of things a lot quicker. Now, are some used cars worth less in December than they would be at other times of the year? Uh, I would tell you convertibles are worth less.
Yeah.
A lot of sports cars are worth less. Dealers, new car franchise dealers that have deep pockets that can afford to sit on sports cars and convertibles till the spring selling season hits. They usually find themselves in a good position to trade those cars, and then sit on them and make their money in April and May and June. But yeah, I mean, it just really got to the point of whatever it's worth, and let's move on with life, and let's just make our car deals and get to the next.
Yeah. I want to pause for a second because I actually thought about this last night. TK is in this chat.
Yeah.
He is actually the Stellantis guy. If we kick the dead horse of Stellantis,
Yes.
it's on TK's back, dead, and he's carrying it around like a backpack. Anyway, but I think he would be an interesting interview for us to have one time. So let me. I'll send him an email and see if we can
Okay.
get that together. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see how. If we're tired of talking about Stellantis, I know he's tired of talking about Stellantis. So anyway, I lost topic. There was another question I was going to ask you. What was? Oh, okay. Here we go. So since you were working the front end deals and you had to work these trade ins too, how closely? I know that when I go to these auctions, every dealership has the same rep that comes onto the block at every time that they're running cars, and they have the price sheet in front of them. So I'm assuming they're the ones that set the prices for how much they got to get out of the cars, or they know what needs to happen. How closely do you work with those reps that are going and repping these cars at auctions and actually selling the cars at auctions to help the kind of values?
I didn't at all.
Okay.
We have a used car manager. The used car manager would have a real good feel as to what these things could do at the auction. He'd have people he could call and verify his thoughts as to the value of these vehicles. Me, I just want tell me what the damn thing's worth. How much are you willing to push yourself if need be? I won't push it unless we absolutely have to in order to make a deal. But give me the number where you're comfortable at, and don't concern yourself with what the customer wants for it. Concern yourself with what its value is. Um, and since I never really ever went to the auction, I had no concern about who was repping the car. Mattered not to me. Now I know when I was with the Penske organization in North Scottsdale, we used to have silent auction at the dealership. We had a huge facility.
Those silent auctions were always so shady, though. I remember my grandpa talking to me about that with the little envelope system. And
yeah. There's always one guy that's willing to sell out some others in order to have friends that can buy cars and get a kickback. Whatever. But when I worked for the Penske organization, and we didn't necessarily have used car managers in every store, but we had some used car managers, wholesale managers for the entire campus. Sales managers appraised their own cars, okay? But one of the things that we were required to do, we had a list of like 10 or 12 wholesalers that we would do business with, that the campus would do business with. And so one of the things we would do is we would call at least 3 wholesalers, describe the car to them, and get what they wanted to pay. What would you bid on this car? Knowing full well that their bid was always below its real value because they were figuring who they were going to sell it to and pick up $500 to $1,000 when they wholesaled it.
right.
So, but we were required to track on our appraisal slip who we called and what kind of bids we got. But we could put whatever we felt was the money on the vehicle. But I usually tried to stay as close to the bids as I could get, and oftentimes because somebody's bid was $500 higher than somebody else's, they would be the one that would automatically get the car when it was sent over to the wholesale department.